Well, the Rugby League Players Association and Channel 9's Wide World of Sports are pleased to announce Wade Graham and Chelsea Lenarduzzi are the two winners of the 2023 Dennis Tutty Awards. Now, that is for leadership on and off the field, commitment to their fellow players and to the advancement and protection of their rights, and service and dedication to the game of rugby league. So congratulations to them both, and I'm sure Wade's probably enjoying retirement as well now, so he can add another trophy to the trophy cabinet. But great to see you all. Michael Shamus, Neil Breen, Andrew Webster for Inside the 10. Let's get stuck straight into it. The news that the return of the 10-day cooling off period for contracts, is that going to cause mayhem in the player market? Can you explain the situation at the moment?
Yeah, it's interesting. The NRL spoke to the clubs last week and informed them it's called the last rights negotiation. Basically, if you sign with a club now, you have to notify the NRL of your intent to sign with that club. The incumbent club then gets 10 days to try and convince the player or make an offer to convince him to stay. It sounds good in theory, but we know what player agents are like. I can see this becoming bluff central. Everyone's saying, yeah, we're going to go here, then go back to the club and say, you've got 10 days to put us an offer to see if the club does fall for the bluff and come up with something. I think it's going to open up Pandora's box. It's good for us. It's good for the media.
Bluff Central.
Bluff Central. Yeah. Is that going to cause just more and more backflips, and then you don't believe when players are signing with clubs? Is it
like a Cherry Evans situation when he signed with the Titans and then backflipped?
Back then it was round 13.
Remember, it was a longer period of time.
Round 13. Now you've got 10 days. And I can see getting to a point where agents, they go to a club, they get a deal done, and then just try and play them. Like Mitchell Moses started the year with the West Tigers, went on for so long, could have accepted the deal at the West Tigers. And then the thing is with the rule, at the end of the 10 days, the players can back out of the original contract. So if you've got no intention...
So that's where the problem lies.
Yeah.
If they lodge a contract with the NRL, it should be binding at the end of 10 days. If they don't go, I'm going to stay with my club.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the whole thing falls over.
What happened to the old Jerry Maguire, my handshake is as solid as oak? What happened to that?
That went out with Wayne Bennett, didn't it?
Well, he's still around.
Well, he's still a handshake man, isn't he?
Well, he is. I don't know. I just think it's... I think the contracting system in the NRL needs to be blown up and started again. And this is just more confusion for the fans out there about where their players are headed.
But can I say this? The fact that they are trying to do some different things is an acknowledgement from the NRL that over the last couple of seasons, things have just got way out of control.
Yeah, I think...
But is this not going to make it even more messy?
Well, I think it is. It's going to be... Basically, you know what it's going to be like. As soon as someone agrees to or shows their intent to sign with a club, you're going to ring the incumbent club. Are you going to make an offer? Then after 10 days and find out are they pulling out? It's going to be so much noise around every signing, and no club will ever be able to announce anything.
Also, does it create a lot of instability in clubs? If you're playing with someone and you're their teammate and then they're saying, oh, I'm going to leave, and then they all of a sudden come back...
There's already instability. Danica, a couple of the situations. Ben Hunt, that's still going on. That whole business that happened during Origin. I think there was a Jack Bird drama this year when there was a story about him talking to Manly, and he was a St George player. Then he didn't play the following weekend. It's already unstable.
No oak. There's no oak.
I think this was a RLPA request to get this into the CBA. Like the clubs were told about it last week, so it does. It favours the players more than the clubs.
All right, well, moving on. Should clubs be scared of the NRL's crackdown on anti-tampering?
Yes.
Why
so?
Well,
we've already seen one club's facing a fine, the Dolphins. It's a breach notice at this stage and looks like a $50,000 fine. And I reckon it's a good thing that the NRL... If you've got rules and you don't enforce them, then you don't have any rules. And if you're not allowed to entice players from other clubs before that November 1 in the season before they're going to be leaving that club, then you can't talk to them, otherwise you'll be fined, because they never fine anyone and never take anyone on.
Well, you can talk to them, you just can't lodge a formal offer. That's the rule.
That's the rules. That's what they're changing. So basically, as it stands right now, you can talk to a player before November 1, but you have to wait till November 1 to actually lodge the offer. But that's changing. You cannot talk to a player at all before November 1 now, and if you're found guilty of that, that's when the NRL will crack down on it.
There's a lot of grey areas.
This is the insanity, though, of the player contract system in the NRL, and we've talked about it on this panel for 5 years. There is something intrinsically wrong with the system in which you can sign a player a year and a half before he arrives there.
It's crazy.
It is madness. And the NRL, it just, like a lot of things that the game does, puts it in the too hard basket. Let's worry about other things, like going to Vegas.
But the reason all of these things are out of whack and have been for a long time is because the NRL has competitors. People look at the AFL situation where it's a lot more stable.
Well, they have a draft.
Yeah, and the players don't challenge the draft. The draft in the NRL is challenged in court and it's found to be a restriction of trade or a restraint of trade. In the AFL, the players haven't taken the draft on because, what, are you going to play Gaelic football for nothing?
No, that's right. That's right.
The thing is, though, the NRL, they wanted trade windows. They weren't able to get them across the line in the negotiations with the RLPA. So for them, this is the next best thing. Cracking down on the anti-tampering rules. You can't talk till November 1. It's as close as they could get to the trade window. To be fair, the NRL wanted to get to the point where the game should be, which is a trade window, but they met resistance, and here we are.
Do you not think that there's going to be some clubs that are very successful in getting away with it and then some clubs that aren't?
I think some people out there need to work on the level of secret meetings and making sure they stay secret.
Secret meetings.
Hey, the secret meetings, they never come out.
Chamit's in the bushes, hiding behind there, looking for them.
We've seen Valentine Holmes get himself into a spot of trouble as well with that photo that was posted to social media. He's been handed his breach notice by the NRL. What do you think the punishment will be? What are you hearing?
Big fine. It's got to be a big fine. He'll have to at least get one match, won't he?
I think so. Well, it's probably in the Smith-Munster category. But for mine, I think it's a lesson. If you're going to do recreational substances or pretend to do recreational substances, don't post it on social media. Big lesson there for the kids.
Well, Cameron Munster's fine, and he was it a $100,000 fine, 70,000 of it suspended, and a one-match ban?
I think it was for both of them, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think it was based on the percentage of their salary, and I think it'll be the same.
Player involved had.
But I mean, if they were
penalty.
slugged that for having a white substance on the table, then I mean, Val Holmes's image was a little bit more explicit, so I'd expect it to be a bit harsher.
Well, but Val Holmes took the image himself and posted it himself, whereas the other guys were surprised that the image surfaced in the end. So, look, I expect him to be given at least a one-game ban, potentially 2 with 1 game suspended and a hefty fine in between 30 to 40,000.
But why would you do it?
I don't think he did it on purpose.
Yeah, it's a trap.
Well, he took the photo.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I don't think it was supposed to be out in the world.
Instagram story.
What,
as I said,
a WhatsApp
if you're gonna-
conversation.
Look, but to be honest,
DM.
Slipping into someone's
To be
DM.
honest, I don't care. I couldn't care less what Val Holmes does in his off season, but you know, there's a responsibility when you're a player, particularly when you have 197,000 Instagram followers, where you put your
Well, it's also
funny photos.
bringing the game into disrepute. They don't want a bad image of the game, which is what you want sponsors, you want everyone, you want it to be advertising to kids. It's, not the look that we're after.
Can you imagine his reaction when he went, "Oh, oops, that's on my stories."
Yeah. All right, West Tigers, they've appointed another 2005 winning coaching staff, Chris Hyington. He's been promoted. Is there enough experience around Benji Marshall, do you think? Because he does have a lot of his former teammates from that era. Does he have the old heads that he needs?
Look, the thing with Benji Marshall is he needs people around him that he trusts. We've seen throughout his playing career when he's put in a situation where he believes that people are knifing him or he can't trust them, then he gets quite emotional, Benji. And I think the fact that Robbie Farah's there, he's brought John Morris, who he played with at the West Tigers, to the club, and now Chris Hyington, alongside a rookie coach, I think there's not enough experience around them. But to get the best out of Benji Marshall, the point I made stands. He needs people that he trusts, and Chris Hyington is that. And the question will then go on to who becomes the general manager of football. And again, it'll be someone that Benji Marshall trusts. It's a lot of trust that they're putting into Benji Marshall. So hopefully for him it works. But it's not the first time. Like Trent Robinson, although he's an experienced coach, he brought in Jake Friend, he's brought in Brett Morris, guys who've recently retired into the coaching setup.
Yeah, but he's... Yeah.
But he's Trent Robinson.
Yeah, exactly.
this
Robbo's
whole
won
thing-
3 premierships, so
This whole thing
he's
is
got a few runs on the
hits
board.
in the wagon to the 05 win.
It's getting the band back together.
Everything that, bringing Sheens in the first place, then making him the coach, and Benji and Robbie, Benji as the heir apparent, Robbie as the assistant, and now this is all this 05 gang believing it can recreate the magic. And it'll either do it or it won't.
The lucky thing is they've got such a stable board and club management who haven't been trigger happy at all in the last few years, so they should feel safe in their positions. I'd say.
The question is, how many years do they give it?
Well, they've given
2, 3.
Well, they've got 4 more years. He's contracted for 4 more years.
Yeah, but how many?
Well, they
I
gave
know what
that,
you
but
mean.
they gave
How
Sheens a
many? How
year.
many years until the pressure starts mounting?
Yeah, do they
results?
say we have to allow these guys to not go so well in 24 and 25?
I think 25. 25 is the year they make the finals. That has to be their year. Next year, they've got to improve.
So not next year, the
Not
year
next
after.
year. They're not making the 8 next year. They're not making the 8. If
But
they-
have we all
as long
got
as they
amnesia? Have we
improve.
not been seeing what's happened at the West Tigers for the last 10 years? That's a club that changes
I don't
coaches.
agree.
What do you mean?
They hung on to Michael Maguire for 4 years.
Sure.
And before that,
yeah,
to
but
be
how
fair
many?
to the
How
club,
many before
Ivan
that?
Cleary walked.
How
Ivan
many
Cleary
before that?
walked.
Yeah,
Ivan Cleary
Ivan
walked.
Cleary did the bunk on them.
And Michael Potter, he was off contract and he wasn't going well, so they moved him on. So they haven't been, in regards to coaching.
But what about all the other coaching staff around there? They've
I'm
had numerous
not
changes.
saying the
there.
club is-
I'm talking about. Well, hang on. But let's be serious. They got in Sheens,
Yeah.
who was in there to be the head of football, and then they made him the coach,
Yeah.
and he was going to be there for 2
Okay.
years, and they got
So
rid of him after 1.
Okay, so what do you do?
That sounds
What do you
pretty
do,
volatile to
Webby?
me.
If you're hearing, as you heard, the things around Tim Sheens, what you just stick with him because you've appointed him, you just keep going with
Well,
it.
don't
even
make
though
the
people
mistake
are
in the
telling-
first place.
Well, that's the point.
This is you
That's
defending
the
your
point.
mate, Lee
That's the
Hadjipentelis,
point.
as always.
No, I agree. Tim Sheens was the wrong appointment. They didn't do their due diligence, but then they made the decision to move him on, and that was the right decision.
Let's go. Well, we'll see if they
But
move
this
on.
is the whole
after
thing.
a year.
It goes back to the whole thing where they've got the trust in the 05 Magic. But the 05 Magic was 2 decades ago, wasn't it?
I love magic.
Okay.
I heard the buzzer. I didn't know.
Is he on the bus? He's on the
He's on the Tigers bus.
No, they
strange.
deserve the criticism they get. They deserve the criticism they get. But there are decisions over the last year that have been made, and I commend them for it because the club went the wrong way. They did.
So
because it's all going in the right direction
So
of the
if
West
the
Tigers,
decisions
it's
that are
been
getting made at the club are the wrong ones, that were the wrong ones,
Yep.
does something then not need to change at club level?
Well,
At
I
higher up
sat here a
level?
few weeks ago and I said that I think it's time for change at the top. I think Justin Pascoe, he's had nearly a decade at the club now. They haven't played finals football. Time for change. I agree with that. I agree with the sentiment that needs to move on. The whole talk around the board and whether they should be, it's not happening. It's a moot point because the way that business is structured or that board is structured, they're not moving on. So everyone out there calling for change, that's irrelevant. The change that they can make is the CEO, and I think that'll happen over the next 6 months.
All right, well, before we let you both go, Brini, some exciting news. You've got a new podcast. It's not rugby league.
No, it's on racing. The heart of racing. Myself and Will Friedman with 9 podcasts right through the Spring Carnival. We'll do a feature interview, but it's not that formal. We muck around a fair bit. That comes out on a Monday. Darren Beedman tomorrow. He's hilarious. Darren Beedman, absolutely fantastic. And then on Friday we do a tip show. And I can say that we have to do about, we get through a few races. I tipped 2.5 out of 4 yesterday.
Well done.
There you go.
Wasn't too bad, was it?
I'll cop that.
That's all right.
With the finals around the corner, NRL on 9 has you covered.
From match highlights, press conferences, and don't forget, Fred in the 8.
Of course.
NRL on 9 has you covered for everything. One-stop shop.
Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a moment.